Live coverage of BR6, my friends. Ryan and I joined at the desk here by Gio and Ollie, your casters, and we are getting ready for match number 2 of today's proceedings. We've got Liquid facing off against Black Dragons. Now, this is where things are going to start getting interesting for one of these teams here. Black Dragons is a team that has to put some work in if it wants to secure a slot at the LATAM League finals. Liquid, of course, they've got their slot locked up. They're already thinking about stuff like seeding. They're thinking about cumulative points heading into the 3rd stage here. So it is Black Dragons that has a lot to play for. They are the odds-on favourites to snag the spot against a team, like MIBR, who is, contesting that 6th slot here. But they aren't by any means guaranteed, and so they're going to have to dig hard for it. Let's get underway with this match. We're going to have a chat about what to expect between these two teams, but let's get to learn a little bit more about the two teams heading into it and get their perspectives on this matchup.
Foi um pouco frustrante, sim, porque a line antiga era um elenco de jogadores excepcionais, todos eram muito bons e infelizmente era mais a questão do tempo mesmo.
Jogamos Oregon, não é um mapa que a gente tem se dado muito bem contra o time BR, a gente acabou trolando vários rounds que custou a partida ali, o pessoal também estava jogando bem na B deles, vieram bem preparados para a partida. Ficar de olho, eu acho que não tem um jogador específico, acho que a BD tem uma line que alguns players sabem fazer uma loucura em um round ou outro, assim, depende do player e depende da situação também. Então eu acho que é um time para ficar esperto.
Esse jogo contra a Liquid, ambos os times estavam confortáveis no mapa e os dois times já tinham bastante estudo um do outro, porém a gente saiu com a vitória porque a gente adaptou bem o jogo e a gente conseguiu ganhar.
O jogo de hoje contra a BD, eu espero que seja diferente do último jogo, né? Espero que a gente dê um cacete, né? Que seja pelo menos tranquilo e a gente não fique precisando aí sofrer e ir pro overtime.
Those are our teams. Let's find a venue for them to play at here. Ollie, we saw Team Liquid a little shaky last week. They they lost and then won an 8-7. Firstly, losing to Santos, then beating, of course, Furia. Both of these matches were played on Coastline last weekend. What are your thoughts as we head into the map veto here? What might Liquid what might they be looking for? What might BD respond with? How are you thinking about this one?
I think it's a tough one. I think I doubt we'll see a Coastline again. I think from the interview that we had with Sexcate last week, he was sort of explaining that Coastline was a map, and last week was a map that they were looking to, learn a little bit about. I think that learning's probably been done, and they probably can't afford to do any more learning. At least not inside of competitive games, because they weren't straight cut matches for them. Of course, Liquid last week lost to Santos on Coastline, nearly lost to Furia on the very same map. I think we're probably going to go somewhere new. It's really all up in the air for Liquid. They do tend to get a little bit weird with their map choices toward the end of a stage. So we'll see what starts to trickle on through here. Chalet, no surprise that Black Dragons are going to remove that one. That's one of Liquid's best maps. Coastline again being removed by Liquid. They don't want to go anywhere near that. A couple of 50-50s, Oregon and Club, they go too. So we are left with a Villa, which honestly, a little bit surprised. Villa, the map that Black Dragons beat NIP on, a map that NIP were unbeaten on for nearly a year. I think it was like 50 weeks or something ridiculous like that. They didn't quite make it to the full year, as Black Dragons were able to take them down on there a couple of weeks ago. And honestly, for Liquid, Villa, not a map that they play very much. It's pretty much their permaban. They've banned it 28 times in recent memory. They, of course, make the decision to go there, with Cafe still being available. They beat Team 1, and they have lost it as well. So, against Ethereus, sorry. So, again, just not a map that you would really look to Oh, in fact, that wasn't really all too much. So yeah, they basically won it once against Team 1, but still ban it all the time. So 28 bans there for Liquid on Villa. Why are we here? I can't answer that question, Riley. I'm really sorry.
Secrets. Yeah, it's an interesting call here from a team that doesn't seem to be too keen to play on this map. Let's talk more about Liquid and their position in the league here. Gio, they're in the top 3. They're one of the big 3 in this league, and they are locked up for the LATAM finals. What are they playing for today? What's going to keep them hungry? What's going to keep them motivated? Because again, they don't need to lock up a position on their path to the major here. They've got the LATAM final secured. So what's on their agenda today?
I mean, you can always argue seeding, but if we look at stage 1, Team Liquid lost 7-1 against MIBR on their very final Playday. So that is obviously not today, but we know that Team Liquid are kind of one of those teams that once they've made it in, they are going to be careful to not give too much away. I suspect the part of the reason that we're actually going to Villa is because Team Liquid don't want to give away things that they will bring out on their better maps. They will have had some things in the works for this map. Most likely, most of the top teams are going to be scrimming basically every map and coming up for strategies with all of them. And again, this could be kind of a learning thing, similar to what Sexy Cake said about Coastline last week. So it could be to catch Black Dragons off guard, ensure they're not giving too much away about their other maps. As for, how they're going to play, I mean, it is sort of an unknown quantity simply because we're going to Villa as opposed to basically any other map. But I'm not really sure. I mean, what I want to see is some specific it's like when we see NIP come here, like back at the start of the stage. We saw NIP come to Villa and they had like set plays and they were so much fun to see. But we knew that NIP weren't going to be giving away everything that they have up their sleeve because, they'd just come off the back of an SI win and they were wanting to do really well in this stage. I suspect it'll be something similar, and I hope it's something similar. I would love to see some set plays from Liquid here on Villa to kind of show us what they've been working on without necessarily giving away all of the real juice that's going to come out in the Copa Elite 6.
It's a really interesting point you make there, Gio, considering again what we heard from Team Liquid last week, where they say, we wanted data, we wanted hours played on Coastline. And so we've now potentially got another situation like that with Villa where they're playing, hey, we ban this map out all the time. We need some boots on the ground experience playing this map. This isn't a match for us where a whole lot is on the line. So maybe we can afford to, pick up some learning, figure out, get some data points, connect some dots, while, again, protecting those high-level strats, those top-tier strats for matches that may have a little bit more behind them. Well, that's Team Liquid. Black Dragons, on the other hand, they have a lot behind them when they're playing this match here, Ollie. There is a lot on the line for this team who are edging ever closer to locking up a spot in the LATAM League finals. Talk to me about the position they're in and what will be going through their minds heading into this match, which, again, has a lot on the line for them.
I think Black Dragons are going to be confident. Obviously, the advantage they had when they played NIP on Villa is that they had a lot of VOD to go on. Villa's a map that NIP have played quite a lot of. The disadvantage here is that Black Dragons, honestly, will probably opt in and angling for a cafe. It's a map that they do quite well on. So I think, for my money, Black Dragons are going to be a little bit shook at the map choice and maybe just want to try and focus on their own siege here tonight.
Well, perhaps some surprises up the sleeves of both players here as we head to Villa. It's time to get underway with match number 2 today. Let's get stuck in. We're heading over to Villa for Team Liquid, facing off against Black Dragons. Gio and Ollie, take it away.
Thank you very much, Riley. Let's jump on in now. Second game of the night. Liquid against Black Dragons. One of the rare occasions that we get to see Liquid play on Villa. And I think we're still undecided, Gio, as to how and why we've ended up here. It could be a case of Liquid are trying to hide things. It could be a case of they're trying to make a sprint for that top place and you feel as though this is going to give them a bit of an advantage in being able to go through and play Black Dragons, a team that has played Villa a couple of times recently. Maybe has some stuff that they can go over. But we'll see how it all shakes down. For the meantime, the bands, Thatcher, Hibana, Valkyrie, and Wamai. Nothing that springs out as entirely abnormal there.
I want it to be known that I'm really disappointed we're not going to Oregon.
Yeah, Oregon's just like the de facto site, isn't it?
But
the
it's
de
not
facto
even that, Ollie.
map.
Remember Team Liquid versus Black Dragons, last stage, Oregon, best game of the entire stage.
Was that the game where Nesk went crazy?
Yeah, it was that game.
Yeah, it was that game. Yeah.
No, wait, that was against. Yes, it was that
yeah.
game. It was the game where Hugsaw got the 3K when all of Team Liquid jumped down the meeting hatch and he got it with a shotgun.
Mhm.
It was the messiest, most bizarre game of professional Rainbow Six I have ever seen, and Team Liquid lost abysmally, and it was a sight to behold. No, entertainment in Siege is defined by the metric of that game.
I'm not sure that we're going to get that sort of same level of drama inside of this one. I don't know what it is. I'm just coming into this and I'm expecting Liquid to play really good Siege. Just because last week they had a shaky week. Like, Liquid are that team that we never, they're never down for long. They always bounce back pretty strong. They never have like weeks and weeks of bad form or more than just a couple of play days. So I don't know. I just, in the back of my mind, something is telling me that Liquid are just going to come through and just rinse it today.
It would be fun. I
Maybe
mean,
wrong.
I am definitely excited by the fact that regardless of what it is Liquid show us, it's going to be new because of the map that we're on.
Yeah. I think the last time that we saw this map played, is it potentially inside of Copa? Yeah.
Last year?
As in like last stage.
Have a look.
I'm looking right now.
Oh, all right. Well,
Yeah, it was Copa last stage where Liquid played against Team 1. That's the last time that Liquid have played this map in a competitive environment.
and yeah, that's kind of nuts. Things very different now. Team Liquid are attacking, so they would be entirely useless for me to talk about where they've decided to defend. Black Dragons have decided that they're going to be starting on Aviator Games. It's the typical primary site here for Villa. Now, Team Liquid have set up a lot of really good flank drones. It's something that Team Liquid are typically very good at, in my opinion, is their droning. You see them stop to drone a lot throughout the course of a round anyway. But just having all those eyes on where the players of Black Dragons is going to be incredibly useful for them.
We're going to see some opening engagements here as Live is actually going to be down, but could be in a position to be revived here. Nesk is looking to push on through. Patoxy semi-baiting his down teammate, and it is going to work. Not only is he going to be able to grab the kill over onto Nesk, but he's likely going to be able to get Live up here. As long as Live can crawl away, but no, he can't crawl away from the fire arrows. Resets, he'll be able to take PSK down as well. Liquid crashing like water against this defense that Black Dragons have set up. Struggled with such a default take as well, just playing those main stairs. Like, that's something that you're very well practiced at, or at least you should be. Moringa now looking to take this long angle challenge as he will be eventually traded out there. Gets one into sight, but it still leaves Sexy Cake in a bit of a tough spot. He's got 35 seconds to play with here. Not a lot of utility left, just one smoke arrow. And try and bait something out here, but he's going to be... Oh, no, not quite yet. Perez is going to be able to challenge onto him and fall. Sexy Cake going for the bait here. He could actually do this. He's picked himself up 3 kills so far. He's just on the edge of the Vulcan shield and the splash damage. He does still have a smoke, and he does still have the diffuser. He could try and make something happen here. He's going to potentially go for a bait as he does actually come off it. Resets there with the pre-fire. A little bit closer than it needed to be. A threaten of a C4 rip was all it took. Resets lands his shots there and clutches it up.
I mean, that entire game, or round, sorry, was really defined in that fight over the main stairs. And even though Live eventually got brought down because of Sexy Cake's fire arrow, I would say that the trade-off was very much in Black Dragon's favor. They'd gotten 2 kills onto 2 of the most valuable players of Team Liquid, PSK and Nesk. And they'd lost the guy who was DBNO'd anyway. And they'd found value out of him while he was DBNO'd because Patoxy baited him. So for Black Dragons, that was a win. I would say, just in that pure instance in the entire round. We talk a lot about how gaining control of main stairs is especially important if you are looking to push classical hall, or if you're looking to come in through study. If you can't gain control of main stairs, you need to go a different way. And Team Liquid just failed miserably at being able to gain that control in the first place. Even sending Nesk up, he just got taken down straight away. There was nothing they could do after that, and they had to try and go in for a different approach. Severely limited. Moringa walking up Classical Hall himself, great. You can get an angle into the site, but you haven't cleared out 90. So unsurprising that you get immediately traded. Basically everything just toppled down around Team Liquid in that round because they couldn't get that control that they were looking to get earlier on.
Well, we'll see how Liquid choose to adapt. Taking those main stairs is a pretty bread and butter approach, especially with the utility that they had available to them. So I think we maybe see a couple of changes come through there, but for Black Dragons, it's a good start. Always good to be getting your defensive round wins here on this map. Historically, Villa was a map that was really won or lost on what sort of a split you went on when you were on that defensive side. That isn't as true anymore. Or is there options for attackers to pick up rounds here, but typically you would want to be able to come away with a few, especially a primary like Aviator Games Room. And with Black Dragons starting on the defense, they could get themselves into a pretty good swing and a nice momentum. We have seen them beat NIP on here before, and there is no better team than NIP on this map. So it's got to count for something for Black Dragons. Just to explain the reason they're in the pause, apparently there is an issue with some player webcams. But we're cycling through and they look like they're going all right. So we're going to wait for a bit of confirmation, and then we're going to get ourselves back on into the game very shortly. But that is the reason for the pause.
They just got to make sure that they look extra beautiful for the camera, of course. Of course, I'm sure all of the audience would agree that they do. Indeed. Anyway, yeah, regardless. Yeah, Team Liquid, not a great round for them. It was just the first round, though, so I wouldn't worry too heavily about it. Presumably, Black Dragons are going to be going to Trophy and Statuary for their next site, and that's what it says on our screen, so I'm going to assume that that's where they're going.
I mean, it doesn't quite say Trophy and Statuary.
It says Sala de Trofeos and Sala de das Estatuas.
Sounds like Trophy and Statuary to me.
It sounds like Trophy and Statuary to me as well. So yes, you guys obviously can't see that just yet, but it'll be an interesting one as well, because it looks like, from what we can see, this could end up being quite anchor heavy for Black Dragons as well. And if Team Liquid struggle to pick off the players on the periphery, once again, similarly to how they did in round number 1, I wonder how successful and effective their push will be on this site as well as the last.
I think that's the thing. We think of Liquid as this team that is very capable of getting a plant down in a lot of different situations, and that's very true. Villa isn't a map that's too dissimilar to others in the fact that it's got a very checklist sort of formula to take control of locations. With Wamai being banned, I would have thought it would have made things a little bit easier, especially when you're dealing with getting rid of players on those main stairs, and especially with the fact that Liquid had brought the Capital for obviously the fire arrows and stuff, and the utility that isn't going to be affected by an ADS. So even if there are all 3 ADSs played there, which is a strategy we often see used by NIP, it wouldn't matter because you have the asphyxiating bolts that you can throw on through. You can then burn the ADSs, then you can throw in some nades or whatever it might be. So to not see Liquid be successful in that, it doesn't bode well. But obviously, it's round number 1. We haven't seen a lot of siege just yet, at least between these two teams. So time will tell if that's something that Liquid do sort of struggle with. Obviously, with this being their permanent map ban, typically, it's very difficult to see and to really understand what we're going to be getting here out of Liquid. Is it going to be a case of they've got things hidden up their sleeve, or is it just they're just playing Villa to play Villa, and we are still going to, wonder what Team Liquid's full potential is on this map, because we're never going to see them play it more than once or twice a stage?
I'm very interested as well. It does sound like we're going straight back into the game, as you guys can see. What I was going to say is I'm very interested as well to see how the Jackal of Palu is going to work, because Palu got taken down pretty early in that last round. So we didn't really get to see that come into fruition. They've paired it up with a lion as well. So we'll be keeping very close eye on how they use those roam challenging capabilities. But should Palu survive the opening tens of seconds of this round, then I'm sure we'll get to see some more of what Liquid's plans are in Villa, because that's the sort of operator that you look at and you say, okay, this is kind of a key integral part of the strategy that they are aiming for. They're taken off straight away. Inevitably, doesn't matter if they win or lose, you're not going to see the strategy that you were expecting to see from them.
Yeah, they're swapping the Nomad out for a Flores as well. It puts even more pressure onto Palu and that roam sort of game that he's going to try and deal with. It again puts a bit of pressure onto the drones as well and where they're actually being placed. Ion went for a little bit of a trip outside and actually nearly took Palu down. He's going to chunk him down to half HP. Very quickly sending that message, and already Liquid have to be fairly cautious on that approach into the building. There's no better way to really sort of stamp down your authority and say you're ready for a game than get yourself in and amongst them early, but in this instance for Ion it hasn't worked out. He's eventually been taken down there by Sexy Cake.
Perez is going to back out from the main stairs. He keeps getting droned, and they know that PSK is just outside on the veranda because they've already sent in one of the Flores drones as well. Looks like Team Liquid are setting up for this kind of south side push, and with those players of Black Dragons looking to hold onto the south side, Team Liquid are going to have to bust through them before they can actually make it up to the site itself. Now, even though they've backed off somewhat, they are still not relinquishing that position altogether. So Resets gets the kill onto Nesk. It's the second round in a row that he's been taken down early without much of an opportunity to do anything. They're still watching onto the 90 window as well, which is a potential point of ingress that Team Liquid are looking to exploit.
Resets will find himself another area if he's fortunate. We've got Sexy Cake still playing on that 90 window. Perez are going to be backing Resets up. Resets has actually dipped himself back through, and it's going to be Perez now to be taking the challenges. Maybe the Jackal there coming through and actually finding a little bit of value for Palu. He was underneath, but he can scan the footprints vertically as well if there's line of sight through the floor. So that's going to be enough to, at least for the time being, shove a couple of the players out. Sexy Cake now going to hit the lion scan and get himself on in. Perez has since rotated back as well, which honestly is probably the right play at this moment in time. There's less than a minute and Black Dragons have done well to get themselves a kill. Sure, they've lost one in the process, but back into the site safely. Moringa, surely you see him. Pre-fire, please. We can see the silhouettes. Horrible to watch. Perez, he's going to drop away and get into the kitchen with his life there, but immediately gets taken down by Palu. Flank watch in place. It's going to be enough. Patoxy inside of the closet. How has he been allowed to do that? Palu and PSK now. 28 seconds. 2 versus 3. Very possible and doable. Especially if players from Black Dragon start giving themselves away for free like that. Resets. Just sprints on through and essentially gives himself up. Palu now looking to push on in. There is time to try and get this plant down, but he is being pressured from every which angle. A kill will be traded 1 for 1, and now we are Patoxy versus PSK. 3 seconds left. Patoxy, all you got to do is stay alive, get yourself tucked into that bathroom, and you'll be just fine.
It was uncharacteristically slow for Team Liquid, and one of the big problems was that while they were trying to put so much pressure on the south side, they didn't really have much going on the north. You know, we saw Moringa up there for a bit. You mentioned what was going on in Closet as well. There was nothing really pushing into that. I don't think Team Liquid, you know, opened up or held on to anywhere like Bathroom Window or Astro Window early, where you typically do see pressure being held. So there just wasn't any of that to hold down those players of Black Dragons up closer towards the site. And yeah, Palu did get a nice kill onto whomever it was who was playing Kaid in Trophy. And that was sort of an area of the map that had been left a little bit open and was just considered to be safe by Black Dragons just because the surrounding areas were being held well. Maybe an oversight from them. But it wasn't enough to actually change anything about the final outcome of Team Liquid's attack. Palu's position was known straight away after that, and even though he was trying to get a kill round in through to split, or however you would refer to that little area between the two sites, because he was known where he was, you know, he wasn't exactly in a good position. He wasn't being directly supported by anybody there who could trade him or anything like that. He goes down pretty easily, diffuser with him. So Team Liquid it just feels like the attack is lacking in certain areas, and even where the attack isn't lacking and they are putting pressure, it's not enough to actually kill those players from Black Dragons.
And Black Dragons are willing to hang in the gunfight as well. We've noticed that since picking Resets and Perez up, they've been a team that have been much happier to challenge onto those fights and quite often win them, and it almost brought a little bit of confidence across the whole side as well. We'll see how Liquid choose to react to this changing situation that's in front of them, where not a lot of what they're throwing here is working. Lion going to be used again in an attempt to assist this entry that initially Moringa is going to be the head of. Whereas underneath, he's actually caught out inside of the Inox. It's not going to be too much of a problem. Nesk finally draws blood for the first time here. If there's anybody on the side of Liquid that you want to start popping off, it really is going to be him. Perez might get himself away there. He's actually managed to drop himself into the basement. Now, Resets could make a rotation to pick him up. It would be a little bit risky. But he has been able to get out of dodge there. He did get downed by Palu, so not the end of the world, but still, for the time being, it is a 5 versus 3.
It's got limited time as well to be picked up too, and there we go. He does finally make it, but I mean, giving up living room as well is actually a really big space for Team Liquid to now have available to them. They do, of course, have presence upstairs too, and this is where Iron's trying to hold them back. But I think that once he is taken down, assuming that he does, Team Liquid really have free reign upstairs. They'll have a lot of control, be able to hold the vertical angles, maybe throw down the nades that they have in pocket. That could give them what they need to get down, but still, not tons of time remaining. There's the first kill for Iron, a second as well. So it's not going to be that easy for Team Liquid to take control of the upstairs. They're going to have to recollect the diffuser now as well.
Liquid do have a man advantage for a time, and it's actually going to get increased again. Nesk himself 3 kills inside of the round. Now, Perez, the player that drops inside of the basement to be revived, has now got to thank his teammates for that and try and clutch out this round. It's not an impossible situation, but he isn't even going to be able to find the first. He had the audio cue there from Palu moving on through, but was unable to land his shots. Finally, we see Liquid get themselves around here.
Finally put one on the board. Even though I think what was going on the upstairs wasn't quite as clean as Liquid needed it to be, losing those 2 players didn't really put the others in a position where they couldn't, you know, retake that space. So Iron did eventually get taken down. It's really nice positioning as well from Palu at the end. It's funny as well because Black Dragons were actually really well set up at the beginning to deal with a lateral take, which Team Liquid did put pressure on. But later on through the round, they went more vertically, whether that be downstairs, whether it be upstairs, doesn't really matter. And then that gave them, I think, a bit more of a leg up. So, I mean, good for Team Liquid. Great that Ness got a kill. It is very unlike him to be taken down as early as he has been, so would like to see that one continue. But, I mean, I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens, because Black Dragon's returning now to AVG, which they rather decisively won back in round number 1. Have Liquid you know, got an adaptation in mind that's going to put this in their favor.
Well, hopefully. We could have broken the seal now, so could be the little bit of an oomph that they need to start getting a couple more rounds on the board. I have no doubt in Liquid's ability on the defense on this map. It's the typical sort of way that you see teams approaching a map that maybe we don't see them play all the time, whereas defense just tends to happen, and there's things that are just known, there's defaults that can be lent into, and you can put a lot of pressure onto your opponent, and I imagine that's what we're going to see as soon as Liquid switch sides, but there's still a couple of rounds before that happens, and they don't want to go down too far here before giving themselves a fair account. So I would expect them to challenge pretty heavily. We've seen them drop the Lion here, so that's obviously a bit of a change that they're wanting to try and make. Still no Nomad, and you think about some of the positions that Black Dragons got themselves into previously in that last round, and Nomad would have been quite handy for a little bit of that, but Liquid are confident enough for the time being without. Still just gathering a lot of that information and going for a bit of a different approach here. They haven't contested as heavily for that main stairs control in this round.
No, not at all. I mean, in fact, Parley's kind of looking to posture himself on the red stairs, which is a space that he did take control of back on round number 2. I believe he did. It's just Patoxy there as well. He's protected by a Vulcan shield for now, but it is possible that someone could come up behind him. I mean, especially if, for example, PSK used his drones to blow up the shield or whatever it may be. For now, though, Moringa's going to be feeling the heat, but it's Iron who is the first to go down at the hands of Palu.
Palu can now turn his attention toward these east stairs. There's going to be a bit of barb that could slow him, but he just plays very patiently and will be rewarded. Patoxy is caught out of position. Drone's now able to gather intel as to the whereabouts of these last couple of players. Perez with the double swing there onto Moringa. Reset's sitting pretty low as well, and eventually he will be finished on off. Perez now going to be the last player standing yet again. Nothing really aside from his weaponry to do this one with, and Sexy Cake, he's going to yoink that final kill for himself. The Inox tracker working against Perez there as well. Liquid double it down. They pick up a couple on the bounce.
I like it, and I like the fact that their approach kind of forced Black Dragons to be a lot more separated. One of the things that worked for Black Dragons really well in the first couple of rounds was how well positioned they were for trades and how well they could set them up, because they could afford to have players who were close by together, because Liquid wasn't necessarily getting enough out of the spaces that were available. But Black Dragons knew going into this round that that wasn't going to be the case. Liquid would change their approach. It would likely come in from a different direction, not pressure onto main stairs again. And Black Dragons separated themselves out a lot more. It meant that when one person went down, there wasn't necessarily any way to capitalize off the back of that. And you just had to, in a way, hope that someone else elsewhere was going to get value later on. It weakened the way that the defense was set up. So that was an interesting one to me, because if it's something that Team Liquid read into, then they could exploit that going forward in the next 2 attacking rounds.
Liquid have certainly woken up, I think, over the previous couple of rounds, and as soon as they get a rub of how Black Dragons want to try and play this one, they will be a team that are capable of adapting on the fly. We're going back to sites that we have seen Liquid attack into previously, and already big changes have been made. They haven't lost the same site twice so far, which is always a very good judge of a team and their ability to adapt on the fly. Now, Black Dragons almost strangely have opted to go back to AVG again. Obviously feeling like there's a little bit of unfinished business here, and maybe a couple of gunfights that could have gone differently could have changed the outcome of this one. We'll have to see. This approach in from Master Bedroom side for Liquid is looking to be what they're setting up for. There's drones going in. They're going to be faced with a little bit of setup that's gone in here. There's going to be mute jammers and a mirror window that's played from Statuary looking into Master. So quite a bit to go up against.
Certainly another example of Black Dragons reading into the fact that Team Liquid are going to change their approach, and they're looking to counter it before they even get there. That positioning as well of Perez is going to make it harder to push through if you're Nesk. You got another player as well on the Astro window too. Something I complained a little bit about earlier. Now Perez, yep, he was ready. Nice headshot straight onto Nesk. And it suddenly means that pressure on the Astro window isn't going to be quite as much. It can't cause a crossfire. Now, Team Liquid have got to consider what the next move is. Iron did also get taken down on the side of Black Dragon, so it's a 4 versus 4. There's PSK trying to nip at the ankles of one of his opponents, but not quite enough to do all too much as the Black Dragons players look to maybe rotate a bit closer to the site.
Still a bit of fact-finding going on here. Reset's going to be inside of the vault. Perez just outside playing the deployable shield. He has the freedom to rotate as well. It really does come down to Team Liquid and how they want to try and further this advantage, because they have spent quite a bit of time up until this point, and they've got themselves into the final minute, and now a bit of a switch up needs to be made. We can see that with Sexy Cake rotating himself on the outside to get onto the study balcony, no doubt. Perez going to be playing these main stairs. We do have Moringa below. Moringa could be just looking to try and skeleton key out the floors. He knows there's going to be players there, and he's going to be waiting for a bit of intel to do just exactly that. Can he pop the mirror window? That would significantly weaken the defense in the position inside of the site. But no, instead he's going to get swung. But Moringa, how does he find that kill? Perez gets himself sat down. There isn't a lot of time left. Resets to Toxie and Live. They got to try and hold on as best they can. But as the kills start to fly, they're going in the favor of Liquid. Toxie, he's still keeping himself alive. He does find the kill over onto Moringa. Palu looking to try and get the plant down. Toxie's going to have to let it happen and try and go for a swing. PSK with the shoulder cover. Going to be in the right position at the right time. Not a clean-cut round by any stretch, but it's enough to put Liquid in the lead.
I really like that round because when Black Dragons decided to make the rotate back towards the site to defend a little bit closer to home, Team Liquid didn't actually push through the north side and down. They also decided to rotate and go south too. And the reason that that matters is because very little of the defensive utility was there. So, for example, what we saw happen with Moringa on the main stairs, part of the reason that Perez had to get aggressive was because he didn't have a shield. Those ADS, in fact, it might have just been one ADS, maybe two. I don't remember. There was at least one ADS that was present there on the main stairs with him. Now, obviously, that was getting burned out because Moringa was just throwing his flashes there. If Perez didn't get aggressive onto him, Moringa was going to be able to push anyway, or someone would have come along with, I don't know, a nade or something a little bit stronger. The point was, if he didn't go for that kill, he was potentially going to lose that space. So I think he felt inclined to do it because of that. Now, he obviously whiffed the shot, which was huge for Team Liquid. That's great control be taken by them. And then they can just continue to move in from that, onwards. So the fact that Black Dragons had to do... Oh, and plus, as well as that, the fact that Moringa skeleton keyed upwards and deleted the mirror window too, that is part of the only defensive setup that was invested towards the south side, further weakening what Black Dragons already lacked of that side of the site being defended. And Team Liquid went in for the exploit, and, it worked.
It did. Liquid have picked up 3 rounds on the bounce, and they've started to look really good inside of this game. You can finish this attack inside off strongly. It will be a big swing of momentum for them. A player that has been relatively quiet has been Nesk, which is something that we don't get to say all too often. Although, last couple of playdays inside of the BR6, he has been a little bit quieter than usual, but it's kind of to be expected. Let's see if he's able to get himself into this first engagement here. He regularly found out in that first blood or getting it. Already we can see him hot droning into Aviator now. Maybe going to look to work off the back of it. Drones are getting decimated here. Black Dragons are more than ready for the slew of drones coming in. Does anybody know that Perez is playing behind the bar? There is going to be a ping. It could distract him somewhat. Ion looking to challenge on the upside down repel as well. Black Dragons are holding quite a full court defense here. Nesk will find that kill over onto Perez. So obviously checking all of his corners there. As I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting him to come away with that one. But it is going to be control of games.
Still continuing to move on forward. PSK getting a nice clean kill onto Patoxy, who was waiting around the corner for him. Now, Nesk should just position himself to try and hold back any peeking that could be done from Statuary, as it looked like maybe Black Dragons were tempted to do. Iron as well has actually backed off all the way to Trophy instead of continuing to hold on to 90. So they've given a lot of room to Team Liquid to work with, and they're holding the man advantage. The only thing I will say is Team Liquid have barely any drones left. So these Geminis, for example, from Yana, are going to be incredibly important to help them gather information, because otherwise they are going to be severely lacking.
Well, you mentioned Iana, and Iana is the next to fall, unfortunately, for Liquid. They do still have a reasonable man count, which is going to be extended now. Moringa and Palu are going to find some success. Live just gets caught out in the middle of no man's land there as the final frag by PSK. We get a nice little star jump ragdoll animation to go along with that as well. That is going to be the first split here. Liquid, they're going to take it 4-2 on the attack, and they now get that benefit of the defensive side.
Yeah, what looked like a pretty good half of Black Dragons at the beginning turned on its head. Team Liquid, with 4 rounds on their attack, yeah, I would say that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And we could really see that a huge part of what it was for Team Liquid was their ability to adapt. And it's not even the Black Dragons couldn't do that, because they were doing the same thing. They were changing their approaches, and I really like seeing that from them as well, because even though, yes, it is a slightly different team to what it was last stage, that is a big improvement on the way that they played last stage. But Team Liquid just kind of outstepped them, outpaced them in that approach in the first half. So yeah, Team Liquid now on the defense. This is the part that I was talking about at the beginning of the game of being really interested in. I want to see if they're bringing along some set plays, how it is they're going to be going about the defense, because this is essentially new territory for us as viewers, seeing how Team Liquid like to play. Now, they haven't brought anything defensively that's, you know, gonna widen any eyes. These are pretty standard operators. I want to see how far this extension is going to go, though, as we did just see a bunch of the players move up kind of northwards, which suggests to me they're going to have at least maybe 1, maybe 2 players situated up on the north side, especially when you consider these mute jammers that are being placed on the statue wall.
There's certainly some nice elements of the setup here from Liquid. I really enjoy seeing laser gates on soft walls that have been shot out or partially shot next to a reinforced wall. I just think it provides really nice lines of sight and something to peek from, and it's something we've seen a little bit of inside of Liquid setup. See how Black Dragons choose to approach this. Black Dragons' attacks were one of the things that got them the win over NIP. It was a very close game, but they were able to find a bit of success on that attacking side. So I'm not expecting Black Dragons to sort of crash and burn on the attacks here. They are a capable side, but they are being challenged quite heavily here by Liquid, and likely not to know what they're going up against, but it's not really going to matter. You can just send resets up main stairs, and you can swing onto Moringa. Find himself a brilliant opener. Causes a little bit of chaos inside of the site, as there was potential there for Ion to find one as well, but they're just going to have to settle with an opening 2. Moringa and Palu have fallen inside of the first half of the round.
Nesk still peeking around the aviator door. Doesn't quite find the kill he was looking for on Study, and so he moves back into the site somewhat, but he has the soft holes to work with. PSK and Live each getting a kill for themselves, but it's in a 2 versus 3. Make it a 1 versus 3. Sexy Cake is the only player remaining, and Black Dragons just infiltrate the site and bring him down as their final kill. And they take the first round of their attack.
Attacker-sided Villa.
Love it.
Saw it here first. Potentially. We'll have to see how it pans on out. I don't think, honestly, that the Wamai ban swings it entirely into being attacker favored. It does weaken some of the positions that you can hold as a defender. But quite honestly, Liquid just got picked off one by one there, and there was very little potential for trades, which is unusual for Team Liquid. Team Liquid usually are a very, very capable group of players that can get trades off. We see it all the time, Gio. It's one of the things that we praise them for inside of the Coastline game when things weren't really going in their favor.
It is something that Team Liquid are pretty good at. That they are struggling with today. But, you know, regardless, they move on to the next site. Trophy and Statuary. They're bringing along a Pulse. Interesting to see Nesk on Pulse, actually. So, you know, not that it's crazy, but it's just not necessarily the operator that you would expect to be fragging out, and it kind of fits the fact that Nesk haven't really been fragging out.
Bit of information, I think, is the order of the day here for Liquid. We see them regularly rely on Valkyrie, as do most teams, honestly. It's not a criticism, it's just something that they do quite often is they'll play a Valk when available. This is going to give Liquid a bit more of something to understand where the push is coming from, because I think they got caught off guard a little bit in the last round.
Oh, definitely. You know, they went for that extension, but it wasn't really challenged. Oh, Parley. Okay. I thought he was going to get caught from behind, but not quite. It wasn't really challenged by Black Dragons. They decided to come in their way, which was, you know, via study, via downstairs, via main stairs, you know? And that's not what Team Liquid had necessarily anticipated. Now, Nesk is going to be handing over this information to the rest of the team. We're seeing a couple of pings come out. They just need to hold on to that information for now. Team Liquid don't need to overstep their mark or anything like that to jump out, get crazy, try and take these kills, but it just gives them a little bit of something for now. Don't forget, of course, Black Dragons in return have a Lion on their side, so they'll be able to gather information on Team Liquid in return.
E1D going to come out now and give a little bit of that information over toward the attackers if any of the defenders are caught moving. Kind of likely that everyone was still, but it at least gives you a bit of surety. What a shot from Nesk. Able to take down resets there. He's going to continue to play inside of that living room library area. Looking to move through. As Patoxy is actually going to be inside a library now. Nesk quite preoccupied with the vertical angle. I'm not sure if he knows. Hatch drop going to come as a rotation into the basement. There's always a nice easy out from there. It gives up the control of the vicinity, but you are able to pretty much get yourself back directly into the site through the stairs. It's a very low risk rotation. And especially if your teammates can still be holding on to those sort of popular areas and those common spots, as we see Moringa looking to play a shotgun quite close here. He could see some success as well, as Sexy Cake's going to beat him to it. Goes for the swing. That's Diffuser down on the ground. Covered with a Toxic Babe canister. And the rest of Black Dragons now have to try and scramble. Palu, he's going to be able to take down Ion Patoxy. Next up to the plate. I'm sure that he will suffer a very similar fate here, as we do see Sexy Cake go for the swing. Not an instant kill there. Patoxy was able to land a little bit of damage on, but with 7 seconds left, what is he able to do? The answer, kill Sexy Cake, but get taken out by Nesk. Liquid, you pick up a round downstairs inside of the kitchen.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating. Black Dragons not putting a ton of pressure upstairs. They decide to come in for this sort of laundry push, which is totally fine. There ain't nothing wrong with a laundry push, but do it together, you know? You don't wait for you to all be shotgunned down one by one. I suppose to an extent, Live didn't necessarily know that Sexy Cake was there, but that's what your drones are for. And, you know, him playing on Ace, at least put your Selmas down. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you could have put your Selmas on the wall. I'm assuming that he actually still had them in pocket before Twitch chat. Like, he actually used them on the statuary wall upstairs.
Yeah,
so assuming he had them in pocket.
No, they got used on Meeting Hatch.
Oh, for God's sake.
On Oregon.
on Oregon.
You forgot to resupply.
Oh, stop talking about meeting hatch. I don't like it. Anyway, the point that I was making is open the wall. You know, I'm not against a good old-fashioned laundry push. I think they're fine. The whole point is you got to open the wall so that you have control of the space that is actually in the site. You can hold multiple angles, and don't do it one by one where you're just going to continually get shot with a shotgun. That's not a good idea.
It was the attacking push that wasn't... It couldn't decide what it wanted to be. It couldn't decide whether it was a living room library clear and a very flat approach, or whether it was a vertical clear. It just wasn't anything, and that's... It's not necessarily a bad thing. That's just how rounds of Siege go sometimes, where you can see the teams deliberating, and you can see that they're getting caught between pillar and post, and there isn't a lot that they can really do about it. It needs that decisive decision making in the early part of the round to be like, this is what we're doing, or in the mid part to just be like, right, we need to stop this and we need to do this instead. And there just wasn't really that. Perez going to be showing some aggression here, maybe taking some of those frustrations out. The E1D actually going to come in and assist him quite nicely, meaning he won't initially get peaked. And that could be very quick control of the main stairs area.
Perez has been doing a good job of taking that control, actually, because he did the same back in round 7, where he basically just walked up and got a kill. Resets to be taken down by Nesk, however, who may be going hunting for some more. It's unsurprising that Team Liquid wouldn't have necessarily invested a shield over onto the main stairs, given that this isn't an AVG defense, so it's not too shocking that Perez got that kill, but to make it as easy as it did, like... Maybe even, you know, from Polly, maybe a little bit more gunpowder. No, it's all right. I mean, everyone loses their gunfights at times. Regardless, it was good. Black Dragons look to rotate up towards Master.
I love how Palu's 10 and 5.
Hey, Palu's great. I love Palu.
Double positive.
You could
have won your gunfight.
I mean, look, the point is when I said it, I realized that's how it came across.
You sound like Reddit.
And then I was... I realized that when I said it, it came across like I was telling Palu that he'd done crap or something, and I was like, wait, that's not really what I mean.
No, there's not a lot that you can do against an Ash Rush like that, and Perez was obviously pretty juiced up for the occasion. We'll see if it has big impact, because honestly, it has been one of those rounds where they haven't taken advantage of that sort of opening pressure that they were able to get. Perez, however, he's going to be able to find a second. Does take down Moringa. Another EE1D is going to swing through, and it's going to assist. 4 versus 1, Nesk, you got to do something here. Ion, he's going to find the final 2. There was a Claymore kill in there for good measure. It was a typically scrappy end, the way that these rounds have been going so far.
That was personally my favorite kill, was the Claymore. Patoxy getting the Claymore kill. Love it. It also means that this game has continued to be actually pretty close in terms of scoreline, you know? Even though Team Liquid, they got a bit of a lead earlier on, Black Dragons have managed to wrench it back to a spot where they are only 1 round off of evening out with them. They're not making it an easy job for Liquid whatsoever. And I don't think we necessarily expected it to be easy for Liquid, given that last week they didn't have any really decisive scorelines, and that this is Villa, a map that they don't come to a lot. But I would, you know, that I wouldn't say that there have been times in this game where either team have looked bad with a capital B. Do you know what I mean? It's just there has been an ebb and flow as to who has the advantage, and Liquid are struggling to run away with it.
They are. I think Liquid aren't finding... Not that they're not finding that success that they used to, but things just aren't really coming easily to them. And Black Dragons are that aggressive team that are very capable to, you know, just sort of run through. And we kind of saw that with the way that the round kicked off, right? You know, I think Perez rushing Palu on main stairs was a really good indicator of how that round was going to go, because there was a bit of early aggression, and then it all sort of tempered off. And Black Dragons just flood on through when the time was right. They were given a lot of areas for free. It appeared as though Liquid just gave up Master Bed, which is a little bit strange, to be honest, because that's not somewhere that you want to defend directly into, but it's not somewhere that you want to really give away for free. And teams will often have a plan and an idea of how they want to hold it. Think back to like Dragons on the defense, for example. Patoxy played inside of the closet. Now, it's a little bit of a rat corner, but it worked, and it got him a couple of kills, and it was enough to win a round then. Leaving it in, you know, just free for your opponent to take control, it's never going to be easy for you. So, Liquid really just getting caught out here and kind of just looked a bit flat-footed in that previous round.
Sexy Cake is defending this main stairs area a little bit more forwardly, which is not a good adverb that exists. Regardless, Moringa, he actually comes over and puts a shield up there. The point is that was an area that Black Dragons have taken for free quite easily on a couple of rounds now. So I think it's rather imperative for Team Liquid to do more to hold on to it quite strongly. Now, one thing I also want to say is Moringa, perhaps it was to help facilitate him putting the shield down, but he's already used one of his Toxic Babe canisters, and that is remarkably early in a round for something like that to come out.
Obviously, the pressure just enough that feels as though the utility is valuable there. Moringa's going to drop a second onto it as well. Black Dragons are gearing up for this push, and they're getting all of the ducks in a row before they start to make the move. There is going to be a vertical angle above them. Moringa will be seeing a little bit of pressure now. Live going to be able to find one on the Cali. Takes down Palu, who hasn't had the greatest couple of rounds here. Vertical angle now no longer being held by Ness. Could be the in that Perez needs, but he will be downed. He is going to be taken out with the shotgun. He won't be out of the count, though. Resets. He's going to be able to back him up. Live going for the swing as well, but he's only got the pistol, the machine pistol in hand. Again, looking a little bit scrappy. This is where Black Dragons tend to do quite well. Nesk now has to move on in. Will be able to find himself one to try and bring this back to an equal man count. There's still a long way to go, especially with resets and the way that he is performing live. Now looking to try and get the plant down. Sexy Cake, he could try and move on through, but he's likely going to be held. He will be able to sneak in, however. Can he find himself a couple of important kills here? The answer is going to be no. Live finishes things off there. This is going to be fairly close quarters. Doesn't really get much of a sight picture there aside from an entire uniform filling its scope.
Yeah, I mean, now we're at the point where these rounds are evened out. Who is it who's going to take the lead here? Because when we consider the track record on this half, it has been very much in Black Dragon's favor. Team Liquid have only successfully taken one of their defending rounds, sorry. It was when they were defending Kitchen, which is going to be the next site that they go back to. And it was just partially to do with kind of, I would say, a weak approach from Black Dragons, if I'm totally honest. It's not that Team Liquid didn't play well, it's just that Black Dragons absolutely could have done more in that round. So I'm very interested to actually see how it's going to go in this round, because Team Liquid look to be bringing something very similar to what they did before. Nesk is back on the pulse. They have the Kaid once again. The shotguns out in full force. This is no different to what it is they had last time. You look at the side of Black Dragons, everything is there to either blow up soft things or to gain information.
A big chance here for Black Dragons to come away on a match point and potentially even a win and really throw a bit of an upset into this fixture. It'd certainly stamp down a bit of their authority on the map of Villa. You do start to wonder if either team is going to get away from this game with a full 3 points. The way that it is going at the minute, I wouldn't be shocked to see an overtime. But we will see as it continues on. Nesk still trying to gather a bit of info on the pulse. It's something we've seen him do a couple of rounds previously. Did do a little bit to give Liquid a bit of an idea as to what was actually going on and where a push was coming from, but ultimately it hasn't always been about the intel for them. It's often been about those very scrappy engagements. And of course, the opening pick. Something that Black Dragons have been very successful in tonight so far. Mainly off the back of this guy, Perez.
What a lad. They're doing a good job. Alright, well, they're going to be running around trying to hold on to these angles where potentially someone from Team Liquid could be holding. Black Dragons, again, a lot of presence on the first floor, which is something that they did back in round number 8 when attacking onto Kitchen. They didn't have a massively upstairs push. And you can see they got a couple of players above, but it wasn't a huge portion of their approach before. Now, it's interesting as well, because they've chosen not to bring the ace this time, they're not going to be looking to make any kind of hard breach. I mean, they can't. It's not an option. So even if they, say, wanted to go in laundry again, they can't open up the wall. They have to go in through an approach that doesn't involve opening up those reinforced surfaces.
Probably going to be playing inside of Astronomy Stairs and just able to dip himself down. Nesk hasn't been forced to drop out this time. Could be a bit of a difference maker. He's still looking to challenge on and we'll be able to put a good couple of shots in there over onto Live. Gets caught out in the Lion Scan, but it isn't going to matter. Finds the opener over onto Live. Sexy Cake doubles down on it as well. Resets now with the hopping. Looking to try and make something happen. Toxie can come away with a kill as well. After that initial flurry, things have once again slowed down a little bit. There is some information available for Black Dragons, and those drones could be in useful positions. Ion going to be baiting out those Toxic Babe canisters. Resets finally gets put in the ground by Palu. There's a 3 versus 2 here in favor of Liquid. Ooh, just... Ion misses the chance there at a crossing PSK, and, well, it will leave his teammate in the 1vx. PSK picking up the final 2 there. He had the heads up that they were both inside of flags. And was able to get the job done there. It puts Liquid onto a match point. They're going to be the first team here, and the only team that has the potential of coming away with a full 3 points.
I mean, yeah, the whole round was a bit messy. I could see why Black Dragons did go for the operator lineup that they opted for and how they really wanted to have that information and use it to their advantage. But the problem is when it came to actually making the approach, they had to move in through all these narrow choke points because they weren't really opening up any more for themselves. They could get onto soft walls and they could get onto floors and whatnot, but it's not quite the same as being able to breach open a reinforced wall. There's a reason that specific walls get reinforced. It's because they're so important, or the angles that you would have by having them open would be so important for the attackers. So it really limited them there. And you know, when you saw that last push come in through, tops, for example, yeah, you're super limited because you're trying to coordinate this push in through a doorway. So I can understand why they went for what they went for, but I think the decision to not bring a hard breach probably hurt their attack a lot more than it otherwise would have been had they opted to have a hard breach on their side.
Well, there will be a hard breach present here in the form of Maverick. Maverick isn't always one of those operators that you look at Villa and go, ah, yes, Maverick. Typically, Aviator and Games Room is going to be the site that you're going to use it on, and you're going to try and use it on the Vault. Even then, it's not the most ideal, just in the amount of time that it takes to really get anything done. So, bring it as the only hard breach is a very distinct choice, but we'll see how Black Dragons make it work. Obviously, you do have the nades as well, and in this climate where a Wamai is banned, throwables are always going to be a good thing. There has been a line made there inside of the wall to study and statuary, and it's in fact going to be enough for Live to find himself a little bit of an opener. Palu getting so aggressive there. Eventually shut down. He will find himself one, but this initial early advantage again has gone to Black Dragons.
I mean, what hurts about that as well is when you open up a Maverick hull, typically you don't want to sit right in front of it because it's dangerous. But Black Dragons did it because it was aggressive. And while they didn't get a kill directly through the Mav hull, Team Liquid kind of lined themselves up at the door to Master to be like, oh, what's this? I'm curious. And both Nesk and Palu died for it. So Black Dragons, while doing a play that was hugely risky, actually still benefited. Now, Moringa isn't quite going to be pushed up upon, and at least not yet. And the nade wasn't close enough to get him. But he doesn't want to overpeak like his teammates did. So he's trying to get some information by looking around without giving away his location too much. Because even then, you've got the risk that the shotgun's not going to reach far enough.
Toxic Babe canister is going to do something for the next 15 seconds to deny a push. But it is only a temporary fix into what is looking like a pretty tricky round here for Liquid. Now we're going to see Maverick use the blowtorch on that vault wall as you would expect. Moringa, he's moved into a much more aggressive location here. Nade going to get caught inside of the ADS. Another Toxic Babe canister. Moringa could try and push through this. I don't think Live's going to be able to find an angle, and even if he could, he's really not expecting Moringa in that position. There it is. The shotgun comes through. And it will land. Liquid now look like they're going to try not only level things up, but potentially take this one. Patoxy, he's going to be left in the clutch. Find himself a great headshot onto PSK. Has a little bit of information. The diffuser's going to be cold. There is going to be enough time, but he can't get through Sexy Cake. Nice little angle being held there off the edge of the bomb chassis. A couple of shots is all it's going to take. Bit of a scrappy game there on the whole, but Liquid, they're going to come away 7-5 against Black Dragons.
Moringa's patience certainly paid off at the end there, and I think had he not exhibited it, then maybe we would be going into overtime right now. But clearly, that is not the way it's going to go. And even though Black Dragons walk away with the loss here, I think this was a really well-matched game, funnily enough. And part of that comes from Team Liquid's inexperience on this map, which was certainly palpable in the first couple of rounds of the first half and in some of their defenses on the second half too. Regardless, Team Liquid keep themselves in a very secure spot at the top of the top 6. They were already qualified for the Cobra Elite 6. Don't need to worry so much about that. I'm not entirely sure right now what this means about Black Dragon's potential qualification, because they did come into today in the top 6 and looking like they're going to qualify, but it's not the end until the end of Sunday. So this loss, probably not the end of the world for them.
No, there's a big game of weekends. Big weekend of games coming on up. And as we can see, I'm in the mental state ready to try and tackle that. But no, I think the Liquid, they're going to be happy with that, coming away with the full 3 points. Honestly, if you'd have asked me, well, I sort of said it when we got ourselves to round sort of 11-12. I was like, I really see this going to an overtime. But obviously, Liquid there showing their experience, showing their capability to really drag something over the line when it counts and come away with a full 3. It's going to feel good, especially after their previous week. Let's bring Riley back in here and get a little bit of discussion going on that game and maybe press that interview button, because I'm sure we've got someone from Liquid lined up.
Yes, indeed. Good to be back, and interesting to see the way that Liquid were very meaningfully challenged there. You know, we've characterized Liquid as being a team that really is one of the dominant ones in this league. But I like that they were put through their paces here, especially on a map that, you know, might have been a bit of a fact-finding mission for them there, Ollie. I want to talk about this in the interview, but, you know, we saw Villa as one of the insta-ban matches, or maps that Liquid often just don't play on. So what are your perspectives now after having seen that match? Do you think that they were on this fact-finding mission trying to get some data points?
Potentially. I think that more likely they were maybe trying to shield some things away for Copa Elite 6 that's coming up. The thing about Copa this time is that obviously the major off the back of it, so maps become a little bit more pressured in the run-up to a major, especially now that we've had international competition inside of the last 6 months. We've had SI, so there's a little bit more known now worldwide and globally between teams. And I think that that's something that maybe Liquid are looking to just try and keep a little bit of a lid on. It's going to be difficult, obviously, because, you know, you've got to play an occasional map. You know, for example, next weekend, Copa Elite 6 Grand Final, best of 5. So you're going to have to play a few maps there. You can't hide everything. But maybe just an opportunity to, you know, fact find on Villa and, you know, maybe keep some other things, you know, shielded away.
We may get the chance to chat about this with Team Liquid themselves. We're lining up Palu here for a player interview. Looks like he's ready to join us, so we are going to be able to actually get the answer straight from the horse's mouth here as Palu joins us. Good to have you along. Thanks for taking the time to hang out with us here, Palu. Congratulations on the win. something we've been talking about here at the desk, and we're interested to get your perspective on, was that Villa pick as the map. Talk us through what was going through Team Liquid's mind during the map veto phase, and why did we end up on Villa?
Well, like Villa was a map that we had a lot of struggle during the period that we played. Like we had played a couple times and we won it, but we never liked played because we on the screens etc. We had a lot of difficulty in the map adapting and stuff like that. And since Cunha joined us, he helped us a lot on the map, and we are start working on it. And like we are building a great villa right now, so probably we will join our map pool. So I think we will be playing every map right on. We were like screaming a lot and we haven't played yet. So I think this was like surprise for BD that we left it open.
Palu, one of the things that kind of was obvious throughout the course of that game, regardless of whether you were on attack or defense, is you and Black Dragons seem to have a very contrasting style, where Black Dragons were playing exceptionally aggressively, especially in a lot of their opening engagements, and there were a number of times where that caught you guys out. How was it specifically that you tried to adapt towards that, and were you expecting it to be as aggressive as it was?
Like their playstyle is it's kind of difficult to play like a team like us, because we play sometimes passive and we are not that aggressive like them. So sometimes we try to combat the aggressive things being more aggressive. So like sometimes I got like the opening death because I really didn't expect it. It was like I played badly, but we knew that they were just like going without drones. They like to get map control fast, you know. So we knew that they were doing stuff like that. Like we had a lot of bad defenses because we couldn't read the attack exactly what they were doing. But at the end, like we had a call to pick Mira. I think it got a little better on the end, and we just finished the match. Like we are not used our, how can I say, like we haven't played Villa for a while on official matches, so it's kind of different, like to adapt on the middle of the match, different from screens. Of course, you can try a lot of stuff, but it's kind of different. So we'll be playing like probably a lot more from now on and make it better, you know.
Hello, thanks for joining us, mate, and thanks for the insight, and the very best luck to you throughout the rest of the weekend. We're looking forward to seeing more of you guys, so thanks for joining us there.
Thank you very much.
Good to hear from Palu there, joining us from the victorious Team Liquid after taking it out there, narrowly avoiding overtime. Ultimately, the experience and the confidence of Team Liquid proving too much for their very worthy opponents. But we will see more from both teams, of course, in short order. Right now, we're going to take a break. We've got our next match coming your way. It looks like it's going to be W7M versus FaZe. We'll get the chance to talk more about this match, introduce some of the players, and give you an expectation of what is coming your way. But to do that, of course, we're going to get things set up on the other side of this break. Everyone stick around, because match 3 is coming your way. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you soon.